Here are some things to consider about jealousy. When we become jealous, our sense of self-worth diminishes just because somebody else has something that we don't, or they have more than what we have. But the underlying truth behind these afflictions of jealousy and competition is that they emerge from a weak sense of self-worth. Our self-worth is weak and conditioned when it depends on somebody else's accomplishments. So natural high self-esteem exists independent of external things, like other people's opinions or achievements, because self-love, if it's authentic, is unconditional. When we're working to cultivate healthy self-esteem, we can start by looking at our past accomplishments and as well as our current potential. What are all the things that you've done before and all the things that you have the potential to achieve right now in order to seem valuable to others? If you ever find yourself feeling jealous among a group of people, but you don't want others to notice it, you're best off acting very neutral around them, since we tend to become particularly pessimistic and bitter and brooding when we're feeling that. When faced with the person you're jealous of, simply provide them normal responses without exaggerating your enthusiasm or bitterness, and they won't be able to read your jealousy. Like, let's say you find yourself in a little power struggle or some kind of competition. You have to keep in mind that power struggles exist when the two polarities of power and weakness, or superiority and inferiority, are entertained. So by choosing to not entertain these roles of power in a competition, you keep yourself out of that dynamic, that power dynamic. Competitions and power dynamics are neutralized and made irrelevant, basically, with indifference and selflessness. So just because you find yourself faced with a power struggle doesn't mean that you have to be sucked into it in order to look a certain way. As if ignoring the competitive aspect automatically makes you inferior, it doesn't. Now, some few people may look down on another person and see them as lower like that, just not for wanting to entertain a competition. But most of the time, choosing to stay out of a power game just renders the other person impotent. And that choice is almost entirely in the attitude. So when you don't give people strong reactions and you feel just fine, you hold that carefreedness in your frame. This is what real power is from a spiritual perspective. It's that ability to think independently and not be a slave to other people's opinions or outside circumstances. Or your own emotions, a slave to your emotions, a slave to your jealousy, a slave to your desire, a slave to your pride. So what if somebody has more than you or wins some kind of competition? Think of the power you give to people when you give in by playing their power games. What makes more sense to me is if you want to play the competitive games that jealousy produces, only get involved with something that is really challenging and substantial. Because there are many small, specific, unimpressive, easy to obtain things that we really don't need to be getting jealous over. I'm talking about all the things we envy when we're teenagers that nearly all of us will get sooner or later in life. Things like our first car, our full driver's license, a romantic partner, a rental apartment, a skilled job, a rock band we started in high school, or cool older friends from college, a radio show, DJ gigs, you name it. All these things might seem impressive at first, but they are as common as hydrogen and relatively easy to get. I say that if the person you're jealous of over doesn't have professional level skills, this is just my opinion. If they don't have professional level skills, accomplishments, or social status, then their achievements are not impressive enough for you to bother. I remember when I used to think that 2,000 followers on Instagram or 1,000 friends on Facebook was a lot. And that was something that I would become so envious over. But that amount is really just the beginning cusp of high status that natural Instagrammers and Facebook users acquire over the course of months and years. It's not really a professional level in terms of like people who are famous, celebrities, they have tens of thousands of Facebook friends, tens of thousands of followers on Instagram, 100,000, hundreds of thousands of followers, 1 million even, right? That's something substantial. So less than that, 1,000 friends on Facebook, a couple thousand followers, people like that are everywhere for a reason. Because it's not necessarily that hard to accomplish. It just takes a lot of time and effort if you're doing it independently. So I would say that until you discover that your ex-partner is upwards of 10,000 real followers on Instagram, don't worry about it. And by the way, most of those people you see who have more than 10,000 followers, a lot of them are not followed by real users. They bought those followers and accumulated them pretty much overnight. And YouTube is another level. A typical high status YouTube channel has between 100,000 and 1 million subscribers. This used to be around the amount in which YouTubers could monetize their channels. So anything below 100,000 is more or less average. As for Facebook, I personally made the independent choice of keeping my profile clean and simple and real. So I stopped caring about my Facebook social status, of course, years ago, even before I was a Buddhist, just because most of the people I was adding or accepting were not real friends. And it just felt so fake and insincere to keep accumulating contacts I didn't really know or care about, and just seeing all these notifications from people that I have no idea about. It was just cluttering up my feed. So consider the things that you have real interest in or value. Some of us get jealous when we hear about other people's sex lives, especially the stories about what our ex-partners have been up to. But some of us become jealous when we see that person with a certain amount of social media or career status. Actually, that's a common one too. But some other people get jealous over things like intelligence or knowledge or taste. We sometimes get jealous over a person's taste because it suggests their financial class and background. So with all the different things that can trigger jealousy, the question then becomes, how many different things are you going to let yourself become jealous over and compete for? Like all of these things? And among these, money, sex, social status, career status, intelligence, which of these things do you even have real interest in? Sometimes we get jealous over things that we're not even that interested in, like a job that we don't like, but we're jealous of the person's rank. As for the jealousy that some of us feel over another person's sex life, well, the first thing to realize is that somebody's private life is personal and none of our business. And on top of that, we should ask ourselves whether or not we have a sincere interest in pursuing a similar lifestyle to the people we're jealous of. There are enough envies in this age that we would be very obsessive and insecure to try and compete for all of them. Why can't you just choose a few things? Knowing your worth is one of the healthiest ways of handling jealousy, as well as criticism. Oh yeah, the next thing I was going to say about someone's sex life is that, this is kind of something that everyone can acquire. It shouldn't be that hard. Obviously, some people have challenges in that area, but we all have that. Unless you're a renunciate, right? We all have that, so it's nothing to get jealous over. When you know your worth, you know that you're valuable and capable and competent, regardless of the achievements other people have or the things they criticize you over. Part of that sense of competence and worth comes from understanding something that I like to call the law of average. This is an idea in which most of us understand that people develop in relatively the same way because we are the same species. I think this should be like a common sense understanding. And I think it is for most people. We understand that we're the same species, so we're more or less the same. And with this understanding, we can say that all of us are at about the same level in terms of intelligence and abilities. We all have kind of the same potential. It's safe to assume that most of us are more or less can agree with this idea. And with this in mind, your sense of worth should come from the fact that you're a human being with a lot of potential like everyone else. You're somebody who could achieve all these things that people get jealous over if you wanted to. So why get jealous? The same attitude can be applied to criticism. When someone criticizes us, it's usually not because they perceive us as inferior or defective, like there's something wrong with us and we have to change dramatically. It's usually just because the person was in a bad mood and they, like most people, like to do things in a certain way and get annoyed when somebody's doing something different. And they wanted to complain about some minor flaw we have that we could change if we wanted to. The thing about criticism is that people generally don't take what they say about others that seriously and spend most of their attention on themselves, not you or me. So knowing our worth and allowing it to exist independently of others is how we overcome things like jealousy and criticism. Everyone has 1,000 friends on Facebook. Everyone has 1,000 followers on Instagram. Anyone can take a 2-week course and acquire a professional skill. Anyone can lease an expensive car or start their own business on Shopify. Especially things like Shopify and website builders like Weebly or Weeks. And heck, with the cryptocurrencies, you can even buy a house within 1 or 2 years if you really save up and you use all your savings to leverage your crypto investments and trading. If you like what I've been explaining so far, but you're stubbornly fascinated by social status, jealousy, and you want that competitive solution that will puff up your image, as I've mentioned in other lectures, there are a number of affordable and fast social media marketing platforms that can virtually make you famous overnight. Unlike Instagram bots, which get tracked down and disabled, these marketing tools actually work and are driven by real users. The downside is that even though the marketing websites claim that the followers and subscribers you buy from them are real, most of the time the users who follow and subscribe to your social media don't usually pay any serious attention to your content. It's just there for the sheer likes and the numbers, the status, the followers. They just do what they're told, these followers, and they get paid for it, I guess, so you can get those numbers up. But nonetheless, those kinds of marketing boosters exist. You just got to search around. So I hope this helped. Sabe sata suki hontu.